2024 River Trail School District 26 Board of Education meeting to order at 7:17. As a reminder, please turn off or silence all electronic devices. And could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance or the flag on the wall? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you please call it?
Jeannie? Here. Marlo?
Here.
Cleveland? Here. Murphy?
Here.
I am here. Fisher? Here. Ronstadt?
Here.
We have four.
Excellent. All right, looking over the consent agenda, are there any items any member would like to remove or further discuss, or has a question of clarification?
I'd like to pull the student Chromebook purchasing plan, please.
Okay, so that is 4H. Pull the Chromebook refresh purchase. Did you want to pull it completely, or you have a question?
I can't know. So I'd like to vote on it separately.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes the following: Board of Education meeting minutes, January 16th, 2024. Board of Education closed session meeting minutes, January 16th, 2024. Board of Education special meeting minutes, February 13th, 2024. Board of Education closed session meeting minutes, February 13th, 2024. The personnel report, payroll bills and checks, travel report, Euclid security surveillance system, press packet 113, and the approved list of depositories.
Moved. Second.
Moved by Fisher, second by Friedland. Any other comments or questions? Mrs. Johnson, could you please call the roll?
Marlo?
Yes.
I vote yes. Murphy?
Yes.
Cleveland? Yes. Fisher? Yes. Ronstadt?
Yes.
And Jeannie? Yes.
Okay, next up is the Chromebook refresh purchase for 2024-2025. You just want a motion in a second? Okay, can I get a motion in a second? For the purchase of Chromebooks, for the purpose of refreshing our Chromebooks for the school year 2024-2025.
Moved.
Moved by Pittsburgh, second by Ian Keenan.
Okay, no, I appreciate the administration's explanation. I did some further research, and it's a really nice machine. We got really good pricing on it. I just really have a concern with and I get it. I get that we buy them in phases and try to buy all the same ones, but a 60% year-over-year increase is just a little too much to swallow. So that's all.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Johnson, could you please call the roll?
I vote yes. Cleveland? Yes. Murphy?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Marlo?
Yes.
Jeannie? Yes. Ronstadt?
No.
Motion carries.
All right, next up is RTEA comment.
Just on behalf of the RTSD26 meeting, just want to continue our positive relationship and collaboration, and thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to recognize any members of the audience who approach the board with their comment or question by completing a visitor comment card. Please do note that the board and administration typically does not respond. And if you wish for a response, please provide your name and number or email for a member of the board or administration to get back to you. Speakers are encouraged to limit their time for others to participate. A 3-minute time limit per speaker with an overall 60-minute maximum for visitor comments. Majority of the board can vote to extend time as deemed appropriate per our current policy. None. We will move to board communications. This is an open agenda for all board member communications. Like to share anything that you experienced in the district. Go ahead.
I would love to share. Euclid had its fun fair, and even though I was not able to attend, my children reported back that it was amazing. They also came back with a whole lot of temporary tattoos everywhere. So obviously it was a good time. I was hoping to talk about the Wolves game and how it went.
I was at the Wolves game. It was a great family day. We did lose to the Moose, unfortunately, so sad about that. But it was a great time. I think all the PTCs and the district for organizing it. I think it's a great tradition.
Yeah, nice dinner with Dr. Elizabeth Pauls and Ms. Marina Porter, teachers from Euclid. We were extremely complimentary of the leadership of the school, the overall district leadership, and the collaboration going on between the various, or between Grove and Euclid, and I couldn't get them to give us too much of any criticism. It was just fantastic. So they're very good. I was very proud of our district and how much we care for our staff, and knowing that how much that translates into good, happy teachers for our students.
And I attended Hero Night at the middle school, and I don't know if anybody's ever attended that in the past, but there's an assembly, school assembly earlier in the day, and then that gentleman comes and speaks to the parents. And then each student who wanted to got up and spoke about who their hero was, and very touching, very moving. So if you've never been, I highly encourage you to attend, possibly next year. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Yes, so I actually had the chance to attend all three of those events. First, the dinner earlier this evening. Again, the staff just to mirror what you had said, just had excellent things to say about the administration, both in the building and in the district as a whole, which coming from a teacher standpoint, that is so important that our teachers are well cared for, and just appreciate the district translates into good student outcomes. The Wolves game, yes, it was very sad, and I had some very aggressive Moose fans that were sitting next to me, so I had to eat a lot of crow that we had lost. And Hero Night, just to comment on that, if anybody does have the chance to attend, strongly recommend it in the fact that it just encourages our children to really identify the hero within themselves. And I think that that's so important today in today's society, to be able to recognize their own potential and their own ability to succeed in their own ability to really make an impact. So I definitely was one of the teary-eyed parents in the audience as we heard all of the middle schoolers who normally can't get a sentence out come up and read who their heroes were and their poems, and just their words of appreciation to their individual heroes. So very, very moving, and I appreciate that our district participates in something like that for our students.
Thank you. All right, next up is district recognition. Mr. Timmons, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share a little bit about the great things that are happening here in Indian Grove. Our theme for this evening is connections. You can see that I'm joined by many of our fifth grade master crafts people here, and they're going to come up and share some of the things that they do to connect with each other within the building, within the district, and with the community at large. Our first item this evening is the trade fair, which everybody had a chance to kind of listen and hear a little bit about from each of the students up here. This is an opportunity for students to do some real deep dive research into an area to become an expert and present to authentic audiences, their peers mainly, but then the adults in the building, and tonight's the board and parents. I do have a couple of students that are going to come up to share a little bit about their experience. So Antonio, Ryan, come on up. Lila, Sarah, Lily, and Chris.
My name is Lila. We learned about Colonial Williamsburg, and we each got a trade, which is also known as a job, and a partner, and we researched about our trades. Together we built tools and products about our trade that our trade needed. I was blacksmith, and my finished products were a shovel and a rake. The four crews came in and watched our presentations and judged. I loved how they would listen to every word you said. I also liked that they would want to know what, they would want to learn more about your trade. This project was really fun. Hi, you're in a competition with the class. We presented really well because we memorized the script and used or talked about our tools. We also let people and kids ask questions, and we had answers prepared. It was kind of hard because we had all the different grades come and see all of our traits and what we had to say about everything. We struggled dealing with chaotic kids, but other than that, we felt proud. Choosing this project was very fun and informative. Welcome to Colonial Wilderness. The best part we know about making our paper is how we got to search on our Chromebooks, what we had to write and read, and how we were prepared for all the questions most people could ask. My favorite part was the kids. They really liked our presentations. Also, I think we were well prepared working out our paper. We had every question answered, and we really entertained the audience. Our finished products were a real candle and a pot of wax used to break the candles off of the school. The last thing we were kind of like glad. The last thing that we had to share with you guys is that we were really proud of ourselves. That we kind of stayed with the whole audience entertained the whole way, and how we were always like, we always had a smile on our faces to make them entertained. And this is why we like to do it. Hi, I'm Kelly. Today I'll be walking you through the process of the Colonial Trade Fair project. To start, I would like to give you a little background on this project. The project started from studying Colonial Williamsburg. We started reading about Colonial Williamsburg a few weeks ago. We would read about the different events and occurrences that took place in Colonial Williamsburg. We then started our project by picking our job and finding out if we were a master or apprentice craftsman. Once we picked our job, we then started to research our job and write down different ideas for what to make for your project. Once you were done researching, you would make a script that would explain what your job is, what the items and tools are for, and what it's like to do the job. After all of this was done, we then got the chance to present. Getting to present was a really fun experience because I got to share with other classes all the knowledge that I've learned about Colonial Williamsburg. I also found it really interesting to be able to go to other classes and see the project because I got to see what other people who got the job that I got picked up and other details that I might have missed. That's all I have to say.
The thing that I love about the project really is that opportunity for students to present and be active listeners as well as active speakers as they go. So we just heard that they had a chance to really be the expert and ask other students questions about things as well. So really practicing a lot of different skills with this.
Sure, was this really just a couple weeks?
They did their presentations last week, yeah.
But I mean, the whole project, I mean, they did a great job.
Yeah. Our next connection really has to do with the connections that we have between buildings. So, talking about reading buddies, classes pairing up to be reading buddies is not a new idea. Pairing upper grade and lower grade classes to read together offers academic and social benefits to both. After opening Prairie Trails, however, we found ourselves with an odd number of grade levels in our building. So when we had two groups that could pair together, there was one group that was inevitably left out. The fifth grade teachers came up with the idea to continue to buddy up with the kindergarten classes at Prairie Trails, and they reached out to the teachers over there and set up opportunities for our fifth grade to go visit Prairie Trails and read with the kindergartners. To present about that experience, Presley, come on up. Paige and Alexis, come on up. Ellie and Wright.
We are reading buddies with the kindergartners at Prairie Trails, when we meet, we read picture books and get to out a book about ourselves. This helps us get to know each other. The booklet asks them questions about the family, friends, and about their favorite things. This is very important to us because this is one of the first times being the older brother. We can also help them learn things. Also, it is fun reading with them is getting to know them. Thank you for listening. I'm Patrick, and being a reading buddy is very exciting. A reading buddy is a third, fourth, or fifth grader who will read to their younger buddy. The younger buddy will then read some of their favorite books back to us. Another thing we do as a reading buddy is make crafts with our buddies. For example, this year, the teachers gave us colored paper with shaped outlines. We cut out feathers and made a turkey because we read a book about a turkey for Thanksgiving. Fifth graders get to go to prairie trails for their buddies and see the school and classrooms. Visiting other schools in the district is fun. We also got to fill out a buddy book. Buddy books are books that ask questions like hair and favorite hobbies. We filled those out to exchange with our readers. Buddy books are a great way to get to know one another. My favorite thing about being a reading buddy is the excitement of the visit. The classroom was happy to see us, and the kindergartners were very excited to know they were getting reading buddies. I was also very excited to see my reading buddy and the books they picked out. I'm Ellie. The reading buddies who got to listen to our story, then we helped the kindergartners with a fun turkey project. It was really fun. It was like we got the responsibility to be the adults for them. For me, I feel like I got to achieve that memory of our kindergarten reading buddy that we will never forget. Hi, I'm Riley. I'm going to be talking about my opinions with my reading. As a parent, I'm thinking of what I'm going to say. But I need to be aware that they are younger than me and still learning how to have a conversation. I also have to prepare by having an appropriate activity for their age group, such as the buddy. My experience was fun. I got to experience 2 different classes. I noticed my reading buddy was spelling out the words, trying to memorize the vocabulary. It was special because I never had reading buddies who I think into misreading. Honestly, it was a fun and memorable experience.
So the remainder of the connections that I have to share are things that I can't have students talk about yet because they have not happened this year yet. The 5th grade has a lot of things planned for the rest of the year with our 5th grade at Euclid, getting them ready for when they're going to be together again at the middle school. So some of the things that are coming up, we have Pack the Place this Friday, I think, right? Where the middle school has invited all 5th grade families to attend to get a feel for that. We are going to also be taking a couple of trips to the middle school to watch their musical and to learn more about the music programs over there, choir, band, and we do have the orchestra currently here at the building. Then later at the end of the year in May, we have a joint trip to Camp Sunrise Lake through our NSSEO partnership, where students will be doing some team building and getting to know you activities to prepare them for when they meet in middle school. And then we also end the year with a celebration with Euclid. Last year we did a party over in Burning Bush Park that was very well received. Just highlighting a couple of the community connections. Right now, we have art that is being displayed in the Mount Prospect Public Library, courtesy of Ms. Herrick's 3rd grade class, which I did not get pictures of right away, but I do have some pictures to share that I received today. We will also have our art on display in the library in April. Mr. Feltman, our new art teacher, is preparing that presentation for April. And lastly, the connection with the high school. So this year we tapped into the high school service club to help us with childcare during conferences, but they've also reached out and asked if we would be willing to partner with them on a service activity, which I think we're planning on doing coming up. We are looking at teaming with them to do a cereal drive. They're going to be sending students over to help guide us and to mentor our GCSG, our Grover Community Service Club, to prepare for that. So that's something that's really exciting that we're looking forward to. And that is it for our student presentation. Any comments or questions?
Anybody have any questions? Well, I just want to commend everybody who spoke, because there's probably people sitting in the crowd and people even sitting up here at the table who would hate to have to speak in front of people. So you also mastered that craft too, so congratulations. Everyone in education services, new business, behavioral support. Mr. Timmons, you still have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to have the kids share some of the awesome work that they're doing. Now I get to do the same with the great work that our staff is doing. So this is an image that you've all probably seen a million times and are very familiar with by now. My purpose for putting it up here is to, again, highlight the connection between the work happening in the schools and the district goals communicated by Dr. Meggerly and the district strategic plan. The alignment here is the difference between us being a district made up of schools and a school district. We're all moving in the same direction. This slide and the next one are what I shared with the IG staff on our opening day meeting this year. The top lines are the district goals for collaboration, curriculum, and community, and the orange band underneath it are the non-negotiables that Dr. Meggerly communicated to the district admin team. I shared these with the IG staff to offer transparency, and so they knew exactly what the focus of our work would be for the upcoming year. Some of these things were easy to accomplish right away. Mrs. Krolmeski, when she presented it, we talked about the PD that we did for rolling out the new Danielson framework and how we are adopting some different updated rubric for our certified teacher evaluations. That was something that we had a chance to come together with the Teaching and Learning Committee, really take a good look at those. That was something that we wanted to switch to, and then develop a district-wide PD that was the same in each building so that everybody had a common understanding of the expectations in those in the new rubric and what that might look like in practice. The rest of those goal areas found their way into our building priority areas of the year, which is what I'm going to be going into more detail about tonight. So, starting with collaboration, we're continuing to look at our collaborative practices to maximize our efficiency and output. And we're really looking at some of the time that we have to offer more targeted professional development to teachers. I took the liberty of changing curriculum to learning at the beginning of the year. And really the goals related to that were to leverage the total school cluster grouping that I talked about at the end of the year last year, to really make sure that we are focused on growth for everybody. And the idea behind that is how can we get, or the expressions for learning is the other piece. The idea behind that is how to get students to take a more active role in their learning. And really the central question behind that is, what are the things that we're doing for students that they should be doing for themselves? A lot of that actually relates really well to the excellence category in the Danielson framework. It really is a lot more student involvement, student agency, so that tied in really well with the PD at the beginning of the year for the new Danielson rubric. Finally, our focus on community. I had received some feedback at the end of the year last year that I put into place related to my communications with families, and then we wanted to offer more opportunities for families to learn and be involved in the things that are happening here at school. You can see our tagline for the year was to be together in everything that we did. Learn together, teach together, and grow together. Before I go into more detail about the stuff that's happening at IG, I want to take a moment to lay some foundation that helps understand the specific work that we're doing across the district related to database decision making. These are the components of a balanced assessment system. As a board member with a focus on the big picture, you typically hear mostly about the big data towards the bottom. The statewide summative assessments, and the results from our interim MAP and Ames web assessments. These are what we use to measure our district progress towards our strategic plan goals. And these assessments give us insight into how students compare with their peers and their year-to-year growth. But we need more frequent and more local data to truly be responsive to our students' learning strengths and needs. The majority of the data that we use in our everyday decision-making comes from the smaller, more frequent assessments towards the top, the formative assessments and the benchmark assessments. These are the assessments that give us the most information about how students are responding to our specific curriculum and our specific instructional strategies. At the Euclid board meeting, Ms. Daly shared an example of a common assessment used in math that was used to measure the impact of our specific instruction related to a learning goal. Tonight, I'd like to share the Reader's Response Common Assessments that were collectively developed last year and implemented this year. Facilitated by Mrs. Seifert, Euclid and Indian Grove representatives for grades 1 through 5 came together to study their learning goals and power standards, which we also collaboratively developed based on the most essential learning laid out in the Common Core State Standards. They then used that information to create a common rubric to measure student comprehension after reading a text. These reader responses have become benchmark assessments for us. We gave one at the beginning of the year to get a baseline on students. We're in the process of giving our middle of the year benchmark right now, and we are planning for the end of year assessment in April and May. This up here is a second grade example. You can see the growth from the beginning of the year on the left to the middle of the year on the right. The rubrics give the teacher a chance to really focus on the learning that's most important to address the second grade power standard. The information from the beginning of the year assessment showed to the teacher that this student needed more skill instruction on using evidence from the text to support their response. In the time between these two assessments, the teacher provided specific instruction to help build his skill, and as a result, the student was able to grow in each area in the middle of the year assessment. This process should sound very familiar from your PIRA training. The idea behind this, gathering information at the start of the unit, using that information to tailor instruction for students and then assessing them again at the end to measure growth, is not only good instructional practice, it's the basis of the student learning outcomes process that certified teachers have to complete as part of their evaluations. That brings us into the focus of learning for our building. I've shown the image on the left before. That is the result of our work from the last couple of years to identify our building's values and beliefs. You can see along with relationships on the bottom, learning is one of the roots of everything that we do. Tree metaphors. Because it's so important to what we do, we needed to spend time to shape the path for everybody by clarifying what we mean when we say learning. One of the great things that we do as a district administrative team is that we share our individual and building goals with each other. A couple of years ago, we switched from doing traditional school improvement or SMART goals to doing objective key result format goals. Each trimester, we dedicate time in our admin meetings for everyone to share their goals and the progress they're making to accomplish each objective towards their goal. This practice has allowed me to steal a lot of great ideas from my very talented colleagues. The process that we use to drill down into what we mean by learning is something that Ms. Daly did with her building last year, and I was able to apply to our work this year. In our school improvement team, we started by brainstorming responses to the 3 questions up on the screen. What does learning look like? What does learning sound like? And what do we use in the process of learning? This was our group brainstorm. From here, I was able to tap into the adaptive schools training and strategies to facilitate a process where the teachers brainstormed and narrowed the focus to the most important ideas and best practices. And we ended up with 4 big ideas. Learning involves differentiation, discourse, metacognition, and agency. These ideas combine in the process of learning, much like individual strands come together to form a rope. They can exist on their own, but they are much stronger when they're together. I mentioned before that Euclid did this same exercise last year, and I'm very happy to report that our outcomes were almost identical. You can see in the blue are the how Euclid defines their learning. IG is up on top there. So a lot of overlap. The next step for the school improvement team was to make these concepts concrete so everybody knew exactly how they could implement these in their learning spaces. Dr. Meggerly had the opportunity to witness this work as part of my evaluation and was so inspired by our conversation that she actually helped create this visual to capture our dialogue. I went in and added some of the letters and the numbers underneath each of the headings to show how they align to the new Danielson evaluation tool that we're using, so that makes it even more clear to all of the teachers the alignment between the evaluation and the work that we're doing. We shared this out with staff right before winter break, and we've been working on it, building on it as we go. So one of the things that I found most helpful for this, for me, is one of the non-negotiables that we had from Dr. Meggerly was to identify a specific tool for when I go into classrooms. And I like to try and go in as much as possible. By coming up with this collaboratively together with the school improvement team, this now gives me a focus of the things that I can be looking for when I'm only going in for 5, 10, 15 minutes, as opposed to being able to do a full evaluation cycle of a pre-meeting to learn about the plans, a full hour observation, and a reflection meeting. So this has helped me hone my feedback that I've been giving to the teachers, and I've actually been using this graphic as our feedback form. I've been beta testing it with our SIT team, our school improvement team, the past couple of weeks, and we have a meeting tomorrow morning so that they can tell me how much they love it or how much they need me to change it. The other learning priority we had set had to do with making the most of our sectioning process, the total school cluster grouping that I talked about before, in an effort to increase growth for all students. As I shared at the end of last year, the achievement levels are high for the majority of our students. In the spring, 2/3 of our students were performing at or above the 50th percentile in reading and math, and 1/3 were at or above the 75th percentile in reading and math. To make sure that we are paying as much attention to the growth of the students at the top of the scale as we normally do to the students that need more support, we adopted the approach to scheduling out of Purdue University called Total School Cluster Grouping. Some of the goals and benefits of Total School Cluster Grouping include increasing student achievement for all students, making differentiation more efficient by reducing the range of student achievement levels that must be addressed by the teacher in a classroom, being flexible and considering each child, each class, each year, allowing teachers to do some additional flexible grouping within the classroom and among other classes in the grade level, and encouraging collaboration within and among grade levels. The cluster grouping implementation is a 5-year process. We're on year 2. Really, the first 2 years, they suggest just get familiar with how the sectioning happens and what the steps to follow as you're sectioning. Years 3 through 5 really is then focusing on leveraging those class makeups and implementing some more professional learning support to provide those best practice instructional strategies to all students. We've actually been able to get a head start on that with some of the things that we're doing this year. And we've done that by being more strategic with the time that we have. So within the team structure each week, we typically use Thursdays as a time for teams to meet together to plan or to problem solve any students' things that they are seeing. Tuesday traditionally had been used for different types of PD or connecting with others. And it was traditionally a rotation. So 1 week was the coach would push into a team and deliver some kind of professional development. 1 week was the SEL providers coming in and talking about students that they might be seeing. 1 week was the response to intervention, the interventionist coming in to talk about things that they were doing. And then the other week was admin, where it was just kind of a rotation. And it was one of those things where if we had something to talk about, we would come in and talk about it. If we didn't, we might cancel or just kind of leave it open. We're using that time a little bit more targeted, and so we targeted Tuesdays. So I've been working very closely with our coach, Mary Flessis, to really provide that differentiated PD to staff, just as we're asking them to provide differentiated learning to the students. So what you see up there is a little snippet of our planning document. Every team is working on something a little bit different that is more related to their the things that they're doing in the classroom, really job embedded professional development as we progress through everything. But it's all also related to those 4 areas of learning that we identified before. Because there's a goal, and then there's the different ways that we help to plan to help the teams get to where they want to be. Our other collaboration goal involves sustaining the work from the adaptive schools training that the admin team attended over the past couple of years. This was something that became available to us through our partnership with NSSEO, and is probably the best professional learning opportunity I've done throughout my career. The goal for adaptive schools is to develop and strengthen our collaborative abilities in order to be able to meet the uncertain challenges of tomorrow. That's how they describe it. Our training allowed us to be more reflective and intentional about the opportunities that we have to work together, and provided us with tools and strategies to make that time as effective and efficient as possible. In addition to the facilitation strategies I've already shared earlier tonight, we've been emphasizing the norms of collaborative work in all of our team meetings, and this year we also introduced the team member capabilities. Each of these gives us an opportunity to reflect on how we participate and interact with each other to build and maintain a positive and collaborative culture. And finally, we have our community piece. We're constantly talking in our admin meetings about how we can sustain or improve the homeschool connections. And I think that one of the eye-opening things for us earlier in the year was that it doesn't necessarily have to be something new or different than what we're already doing. Leverage the things that we already have going on to make them beneficial for everybody involved. So the first bullet point I had said was really feedback that I had gotten from parents about the communications from the schools. We all send our monthly newsletter out via SMORE. There was some feedback that I had gotten that some of the more important things, people wanted to see more standalone communications so that it stuck out to them. We're all humans living busy lives, and sometimes the dates for those important events can slip by us. So just having those constant reminders is something that I've been working on this year and trying to get that out more frequently. The second item is all about bridging the learning happening in the school to the learning that's happening at home. So last year, Mrs. Alexakos and Mrs. Kuleza organized and put on our first family literacy night, and it was a huge success. Our next one is coming up on February 29th, and I invite you all to stop by and see why. In math, our new curriculum resource offers some nice family math resources that we are starting to dive into as the teachers are becoming more comfortable with the program. And I've also had a staff member come up to me and inquire about maybe doing a family math night next year as well. So that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind as we start to budget and plan for next year in the next couple of weeks. One other area that I'd like to highlight has been a goal that Mrs. Krusel had set for herself this year related to special education. The process for evaluating and qualifying for special education can be exhausting and confusing for families that are going through it, especially if it's their first time. As a district, we've been working on making the lead up to the meeting and the meeting itself feel more collaborative and less mysterious through the facilitated IEP process. And that is something that all special education staff members have been trained on over the last couple of years. This year, Mrs. Krusel also started to contact parents a day or two after the meeting to see how they felt about the meeting itself, the process that everything was going on, and if anything had come up in the day or so since they've left the meeting that they had questions about or wanted to share with us. This relatively simple act has really turned our IEP process into a true wraparound service for the families as well as the students, in addition to the support that we provide the students here at the school. That is it for my update.
Comments or questions?
It's just more because, I haven't heard the total school cluster grouping before, so I'm sorry if I'm ignorant to this and I should know about it. Like, is this on the backside, like what the teachers are doing in terms? Because in my head, all I heard you say was putting in, or not all I heard you say, but what I was processing in my brain was that this is how we figure out how to administer or really dig down into RTI, but that's not what this is doing.
So the idea of sectioning is you want to create a heterogeneous group of students. You want a mixture of different ability levels, but when you have a lot of different ability levels, we have 26 kids with all different levels, it does make it harder for the teacher to be able to differentiate that instruction. So what the total school cluster grouping does is it limits the the span of ability levels in the classroom. So instead of having 26 kids with 26 different ability levels, you look at to see where students are alike and where they're different, and placing them in groups that are similar.
Okay, so where you're still, I get what you're, and I definitely understand what you're saying. So is there a format that was recommended, or is this something that the teachers are kind of developing on their own as we go through this cycle? Which I totally understand why it takes 5 years
Yeah.
to get there.
So this is, like I said, something that's out of Purdue, and it really was, a lot of it was designed for schools that have higher achieving populations.
Okay.
To make sure that we're hitting the growth of the students that are on the higher end of the spectrum as much as the students that are on the lower end. It is something that Lynn Fisher had been talking about implementing before she had left. It never really got off the ground, and it was something that we, after being here for a year or two and seeing the shape of the building and the work that we were doing, it was something that I explored a little bit, and that was something that we worked together to implement with the staff. In terms of the sectioning itself, it's almost an identical process that the teachers go. There's just a couple of extra steps and a couple of extra things to think about as they are looking at where students get placed. And so with our sectioning process, it's always grouping the students together first to figure out what their best spot would be within that, and then assigning the teacher afterwards. And the idea is that the teacher that does get the ones that have students that need to be more challenged then can also receive some specific learning on their part for how to teach students that need more extension, more challenge, more piece. So it is something that it's more beneficial for us because we have the ACE program. It's more beneficial in the younger grades than it is in the older.
You already predicted my question,
Yes.
because I was like, when are we doing these? Okay.
Yes. Because before we get to 4th and 5th grade, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd still have those students that need to be challenged and in a way that they need to be challenged.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just was, there's a few. Okay.
Down there,
Okay.
Maybe just a comment. Thank you for that free postgraduate class. I just said that was way over my head for the most part, but where I was able to tune in and find some common ground, super impressed. And I think that's what really makes our school district so distinguished, our academic achievement, and what attracts all of our new teachers and administrators is this kind of work that we do behind the scenes. So super impressive. Again, I for a moment wasn't sure if you're the professor or the student.
I'll do a better job next year.
No, you gotta go first and Karen goes second. So it's your presentation. Very well done.
Anyway, the only question I have, and I asked Ms. Daly the same thing, so you filled some pretty big shoes when you took over as principal. To date, what is your proudest achievement of your time as principal here at Indian Grove?
Oh man, when you ask that to her, I'm like, I gotta think of something good for when you ask I think it's really just, generally speaking, this building and working with everybody here. We are all here for the right reasons and doing the work that we all believe in. I think that the piece that makes me the most proud to start with really is that tree, the values and the beliefs, how we came together to really identify the things that are most important for us, that I now use as our gauge when we're hiring. When we just did our first round of interviews, our first and second round of interviews for the assistant principal position, their first task when they got here, I asked them to come 15 minutes early, was to look at this tree and to describe to me, like, what are the things that attracted you? What are the things that stuck out to you? So this has become our filter in everything that we do, which has really allowed us to stay focused on the most important things for us. And that's where I'm now most excited about how that's going to happen with the learning work also. If these are the things that we're saying are our highest leverage practices, what can we do to strengthen these up beyond anybody's food? Or beyond what we thought we could do.
Thank you, great job.
So when we do the adaptive school training, like when we have rollover in our staff, we don't have a ton always, how does that training keep filtering through? Like, do we do that for every new person that we hire on, or?
The adaptive skills training?
Yeah.
So the majority of people that were trained were the administrators. And so we went through like regular training and then advanced training. And so we were able, as people rolled up, we sent them, and then we sent a crop of like teacher leaders. So it's not something that, I think we spent 8 or 9 full days in training over the course of 2 years, so it's pretty deep commitment, but it's not something that we train all the staff on, but we filter it through, through the leaders in how they conduct their meetings, the agendas, you heard Karen talk about agendas,
Yep.
Certain ways of facilitating meetings, and then operating under norms that end up just being the way that team runs.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I just wanted to know, like,
Yeah.
it's more a trickle-down effect than anything else, because when we see our leadership doing that, then we're making a lot of the same techniques and strategies. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Next up is elementary classroom technology. Alicia, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come back again this month to talk a little bit more about elementary classroom technology. Where we left off last time, I think we had some questions and there was some requests to provide additional context. And so I actually really enjoyed taking kind of a trip down memory lane from several of our staff members. And I think it was a really good exercise because I think as we evolve technology, it's important to see it in the context of the journey of where we were, what guided us to kind of continue on the path that we were going to, and how we've ended up where we are now. And so I think it was a really excellent exercise, not only for me because I am new to the district, but also for the board to see that we have been guided, I think, by some of the same kinds of things that we continue now to be guided by. It's just the technology evolves. And so the recommendation is to provide all elementary teaching classrooms and LRCs with 75-inch flat panels and small conference rooms and teaching spaces with 65-inch flat panels. And so with the history, I started from maybe 10, 15 years ago with overhead projectors. And by overhead, I don't mean like on the ceiling, I mean like wheeled in on the carts with the transparencies. Those were the overhead projectors. And that was only like 10 something years ago. That was when I was teaching. And so that was some of the earliest technology that we had. And then we went from there to ceiling mounted projectors. And so that was great because it kind of paired up with our evolution towards digital technology. We were using more online platforms. There was more things happening on the computers for both teachers and students. And so to go to a ceiling projector was great because for the first time we could show kids what we were doing on our computers and kind of evolve that way. So that was great, and that happened for a pretty long time. So then when the administration building and Prairie Trails were constructed, there was a desire to think about some maybe different classroom presentation technology. Maybe that was a little bit more streamlined, more modern. And so that's where the LCD panels came into place, and that's what we have right now, the LCD screens. And so for a while, those teachers had LCD screens, and those were great because they were very easy to install, not many wires and no extra components. And teachers were able to just plug in with an HDMI cable and have their screens projected like that. So then after teachers had worked with the LCD screens at Prairie Trails for a while, there was a request and a desire for them to be able to be untethered from the wire, from the screen, especially in the lower grade levels because they'd like to be able to move around with students, be able to still have access to the screen as teachers, but they didn't want to be tethered a few feet away from the wall. And so that's when some of our screencasting possibilities were explored. And so after talking to some of the tech staff and Christy and some others who were involved, they looked into Chromecast and Apple TV and the Vivies, which was our ultimate choice. And so each of these possibilities was explored, and the Apple TVs, it was determined that having a Chromebook and not an Apple environment Windows environment, it made the management and that deployment of them really complex, and it just didn't make sense. So then we looked at a Chromecast solution, and the issues with that were twofold. One issue was that Chromecast was really developed for a home environment where it's just one family, one wireless connection, and then that was kind of how it was designed. It wasn't designed for an enterprise environment where you needed to manage, hundreds, potentially hundreds of devices. So there wasn't a good management platform for the Chromecast. The other issue with the Chromecast is that by nature it relies on a really strong and stable Wi-Fi connection. And in an enterprise environment with many different wireless Wi-Fi networks, plus hundreds of student and teacher devices, the ability for us to constantly, consistently guarantee a strong and stable Wi-Fi connection for those devices to be flawlessly, seamlessly functional, also, we couldn't guarantee that. And so that's why we went with the Vivi, which you can hardwire or you can do Wi-Fi, so we have it both ways. And then also it's designed for an enterprise environment, and so that's where we have the apps on teacher devices, and then they can wirelessly cast via the app. And the Vivi does have a monthly annual cost to that. So that's kind of how we ended up with the Vivis. And then when my predecessor, Matt Tomes, came into the district, he and the administration continuing to discuss the desire for more engagement and flexibility with classroom technology. And so that's when he came in and brought in short throw interactive projectors. And so those were the projectors that are mounted at the top of the wall, and then they project onto a whiteboard. And so that was kind of the next step into trying to get more interactive while still being able to be wireless. And so we have 27 of those in the district. After teachers have been working with those, some of the issues that have been identified with the short throw projectors are the very high quality and kind of like the type of whiteboard you need. It has to be really pristine. It can't just be any whiteboard. So we've had a lot of issues with needing to replace whiteboards. The short throw projectors also have numerous components. So you've got your projector itself with the lamp and the fan, which all have multiple components which can go down or need repair. And then you've also got like a interactive bar that is a separate component, and I guess if that gets jiggled or touched in any way, then it needs to be completely recalibrated. So there's a lot of teaching time that gets lost just from my tech team having to come in, or teachers themselves who have learned how to recalibrate. But so these are just some of the issues that we have with the short throw projectors. So when I came in, I've had experience with both. Previous district had short throw projectors, and then my most previous district had interactive flat panels for about the last 4 years. And so as I mentioned, we have identified issues with both the short throw projectors as well as the LCD screencasting issues. And then another issue just with the LCD screencast at the Prairie Trails is that there's no touchscreen functionality on that. And I think as we've continued to discuss, that's something that really all teachers are interested in, from the youngest kids up into the older students, is to have just the ability to have touchscreen functionality is something that I think provides that extra level of engagement and flexibility for teachers and students. So at the last meeting, I presented a chart that compared the interactive flat panels with the short throw projectors and the ceiling mounted projectors. And so I didn't at the last meeting, I'll present a chart that kind of compares the flat panels that are being proposed with the LCD monitors with the screencasting option. So that's what I've got in the chart kind of below. But basically, if you look at the two of them compared side to side, it's the administration's opinion that the LCD screencasting is a less flexible and robust option than both interactive flat panels and short throw interactive projectors. Even traditional ceiling mounted projectors, if they're projected onto a whiteboard, teachers can write on the board and sort of interact with the device in that way. Whereas LCD screencasting provides no opportunity for even such basic interaction. The only significant advantage that LCD screencasting has over the traditional ceiling-mounted projectors is that LCD screencasting panels are wireless when paired with a wireless screencasting device. And so I won't kind of list all of the bullet points in the chart, but you can see that they're just vastly different pieces of equipment with just kind of like different goals and different possibilities for teachers and students. So then I was challenged by Jody when we were talking after the last meeting to think about what is our goal for classroom technology and for technology in the district in general. So she challenged me to kind of think of what's the vision for what we're doing, not just with this proposal, but also with the Chromebook refresh and then going into the future. And so that's where I came up with the word freedom, kind of an acronym, play on an acronym. And so, but I really feel like, so I came up with about 4 words, and then, but they weren't in any order, and I was thinking, oh, it would be cool if they formed some kind of a word, but they did, they formed the word free. And so that really, to me, symbolizes what we're trying to do with technology in the classroom. So first is flexibility. So classroom technology has to be flexible. Teachers can move around the room physically, they can work with small groups, individual students. They can also differentiate with technology based on individual student needs. And also, and this is kind of a key one, classroom display technology will be robust enough that potentially in the future, staff may not require 2 devices because, as they currently have 2 devices, because they will have on the wall, if you go with the flat panels, both a complete Windows and an Android device. Classroom technology will also be reliable. So the internet connection will be stable, hardware will have as few components as possible, and will be backed by robust vendor warranties, and integrated software applications will be reliable and supported by the developers. And then also, and this is a really big one for my department too, classroom technology will be evaluated against the highest security standards to ensure the safety of students, staff, and district data. Engagement, classroom technology will engage students with large, bright, clear, and loud displays, and also have touchscreen interactivity whenever possible in order to leverage the functionality of our tech tools to support the increasingly digital curriculum and to provide maximum accessibility for all users. And then finally, E for empowerment. So classroom technology will empower teachers to bring various media together and interact with that media to impact student learning. It will also impact students to actively participate in their learning by moving around the classroom freely through differentiation and through touchscreen. And then below that, I've got kind of a scale of classroom display technology innovation. And so we looked at that, we looked at the things that we've been talking about over the last couple of months, kind of going from least innovative with the traditional ceiling projector, and then going all the way to most innovative, which really captures that freedom acronym to the interactive flat panel. And then finally, there was a few just pieces of additional information that were requested at the last meeting. One is the warranty information. So the panels come with a 3-year bumper-to-bumper out-of-the-box warranty. So that includes all of the physical hardware, plus any of the accessories like the stands or the mounting brackets or anything physical that comes with it. It also is a warranty for any of the software that comes loaded on the panel when you get it. So all of that is supported as well. And then they also, if a panel should, when it's under warranty, need to be repaired or sent back, they'll pay for shipping to and from their facility for repair. And then cleaning, the glass is some sort of special glass where it doesn't show fingerprints as well as other panels, but also there can be cleaned with any kind of like electronic wipes or microfiber. And I also asked if someone writes on it with a dry erase whiteboard marker, you can just wipe it off with any of those clean products or microfiber cloth. So the administration does continue to recommend purchasing ClearTouch panels, including the software and accessories, at a total cost of $163,237, which is included in the capital project budget for Euclid infrastructure improvements.
They had an annual subscription, did you happen to have that was?
No, the flat panels that they're purchased flat out. It's a one-time purchase.
I thought you said the software or something had an annual.
No, so
subscription or
just the
something.
warranty covers for 3 years, like whatever software is loaded onto the clear touch panel when we get it, that's supported, but there's no annual fee at all, yeah.
All right, hold on, let's get a motion in a second before we go to questions. Can I entertain a motion in a second to purchase the clear touch panels, including required software and accessories from Clear Touch at a total cost not to exceed $163,257. Moved by Dean Key, second by Friedland. Any questions?
Question, so Robert, were you asking about the traditional LCD or the interactive flat panel? I thought you said there was the annual, was
For
it
the
monthly or
Vivi.
annual for the?
Yeah, for the Vivi,
The Vivi is the same thing as the interactive flat panel?
no, the Vivi is what we have, at schools where they have just the LCD monitor, and then there's like a little, like, and that's not a flat panel, that's just like a Sony monitor or something. And so that's what we have at Prairie Trails, and then we purchased these Vivis, and they're like a little box that you kind of stick on the side of it, and then you either hardwire it or, do Wi-Fi, and then those you manage from an app, but that has an annual fee.
No, I think questions, I think just in general, I get the allure of having the best, newest, fanciest technology, for sure, I look at those TVs first, yeah. But just the totality of everything that we're always spending on, like this is one area where it doesn't have to be the very best available to choose as an option. I think a lot of the items that are presented to us in a singular format are always the very best. It's not the second best or third best. And so this is where, I come in looking at the overall capital budget, right? This is in the budget. I said, how could our budget be less by budgeting for, let's say, LCD screencasting screen TV or the short film innovative projector is something less to look at the broader scope of it. Yeah, it would be great to have, but like as you said, technology is changing and evolving every 3 to 5 years. It was not too long ago that we got the short film interactive projectors, which were the latest, greatest thing, and you just listed far more reasons about why they're bad than what Matt sold us as why they were so good. So a little stung by that one, just gotta say. And some of the features that are 4 times the cost of the LCD, I don't know if they're 4 times better, the touchscreen technology. I voted yes for the Chromebooks because I thought we achieved the need for touchscreen with the individual Chromebooks. And so that we don't need to go up to the screen to touch. We don't need to touch on both devices. The personal one is probably better, so I supported that one. And that's why I think in total, we've got to pick and choose how we look at our grand budget. In a couple subjects from now, we want to bring on 2 new teachers. Yes, great idea. It'd be a lot easier to support them with not spending as much here. I know teachers are an annual cost, but this is where, over the course of years and time, we can try to be a little bit more fiscally tight. And not because I don't like spending money, spending $30 million is wonderful, not $35 million. And so come to issuing more bonds. Let's spend the maximum amount. This is where, and I think Rob and I echo the same thing over and over, looking at the broader picture. So as much as I would love to support yet another best, greatest, most modern technology piece, after we just supported a great leap forward for the individual touch point with the touch Chromebooks, I will not support this particular recommendation by the end. Thank you.
And you've worked with these touch panels?
I
You
have,
worked with them
for
for
about
4
4
years?
years.
So they're not like brand new?
Right.
How long, do you know how long they've?
Oh, gosh. Well, the earliest ones were probably like 2013. And like smart boards, that was kind of an earlier iteration from evening boards. But then over the last probably 5 or 6 years, more and more brands have started coming out with them. So they've gotten better and they've gotten cheaper. And so I've personally worked with them for the last 4 years. And I know the short throw interactive projectors, to your point, they were, I think, new. I don't know that anybody had really worked with them before, so I think maybe the issues with them weren't known, but there have been a lot of issues that have impacted teaching. So that I did not see in my previous experience with the flat panels.
I don't think we can hold her accountable for her predecessor's decision on technology. But I appreciate your presentation and the history and all the points of it. I guess for me, like, we say like latest and greatest technology, like those Chromebooks are not the latest and that we approved are not the latest and greatest technology. They are an improvement and they are needed upgrade because the software on the current models are no longer being supported from a security patching standpoint. And I just see differences between a touchscreen that you would use in a classroom where maybe you have 2 kids working on math problems or 4 kids working on a math problem, showing their work is just a different like application than them on a Chromebook. I see the difference, so it's my viewpoint.
Go ahead.
On your recommendation, maybe I missed something reading through everything, but what is the fixed mobile stand? There's only one adjustable wall
Right.
mount and one microphone kit. Where does that go?
Right.
Where is it?
So the mobile stand, we're thinking for each school, once we do like IG, ideally.
Oh, you
next
mean a
year.
cart?
It's like a
To
cart that you
roll
wheel
it
around. Yeah,
Got
so
it.
we would just have one of those so that we could have one that goes sometimes in the LRC as a secondary one. Sometimes maybe it's wheeled into the cafeteria or something like that. And then the one, we'd only like to do one that's fixed to the wall, but it's like motorized, you could raise it and lower. And that would be in the LRC because they serve the littlest ones to the bigger ones. And so ideally they would be able to raise and lower according to grade level.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll echo what Lou said. I love it. I mean, it's awesome technology. I'd love to have these in the classrooms. I'm a little concerned with, not a little concerned. I mean, the difference between the LCDs and this is $120,000. That's one school. That's one school. That starts to add up. And I appreciate the analysis. I was really kind of hoping for something more in the middle. It's a lot more. And I'm a tech guy, so I appreciate this stuff. It's cool. It's really cool. I have clients that spend a ton of money in their conference rooms, and I've got a nice conference room. And I don't think any of them have this kind of stuff. Like, as cool as it is, and the application's different, I get it. I don't know about the educational value of $3,000 more a set. That's my real struggle. It's purely financial. Technical wise, like, I can't argue with it. It's cool. Like, it does all of these things. It's really awesome. But I don't know, for $120,000, I mean, that's a couple extra social workers. I mean, let's ask the teachers, what would they rather have, a social worker, an added social worker for the next 3 to 5 years?
I would also add that we probably would not bring LCD monitors ever to the board as a teaching tool. So while that's on here as a comparison, that's not going to be something that you'll see in our recommendations.
I just want to make sure this is just for Euclid.
Correct.
So at
Correct.
some point, when we're done with Indian Grove, we'll be doing Indian Grove,
Next year we
Well,
should.
Yeah, correct. Mhm.
and then the middle school.
In the middle
By
school,
then,
that's-
technology will be out.
Yeah.
Okay. They're a little different. Okay.
So if the LCD would never be brought to us, was the comparative option the short throw projector?
Well, you guys had quite a few questions about LCD the last time, and so I thought it was important to kind of walk through what we've learned from our past history, things that we've bought. But the LCD really is just not innovative. So for what we're doing and what we're expecting in the classroom, that would be the last thing that I would ask Alicia to bring forward. We already have more innovation now with the short throw projectors. So that would probably be more along the lines of what we would bring. But then that comes with, those things come with a cost. Those are more whiteboards, those are more speakers and things like that. So even though we have some, we would still bring that cost. If this doesn't come, just know like LCD would not be the direction I would ask that to go in.
Okay, so is there, I guess that, is there not a lesser expensive option that accomplishes the goal? It's just really, I've really struggled with $4,000 a setup, like, and I was really kind of hoping for coming back with, and I get that the LCD with the Chromecast, all that stuff. I mean, just something, a little give somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we did look at less expensive options, but again, looking forward to take away, to only have one staff device, like, we are still paying money out in other areas. So if we go to a lesser, panel, let's say, then we're still gonna keep 2 devices with staff. So although we're paying some on the front end, we are looking more long-term at how we can save money on other components, bulbs, speakers, potentially not 2 staff devices, because those are the things that will continue, so.
So hang on, right now, in a classroom, you've got, what, a PC attached to a monitor, or to the short throw projector?
The teachers each are issued 2 devices, a Windows device and a Chromebook. And so teachers will have either their Windows device attached or screencasting or their Chromebook. So what we're thinking, what we're saying is if we go with this proposal, then the Windows devices are up for a refresh in about a year. And so we could potentially not have that. We could not purchase an additional round of Windows devices for teachers. Because if we go with this proposal, this would have basically a Windows computer on the wall.
So the teachers would still have 2 devices?
They would have one mobile personal device, and then their classroom would have like a display. As opposed to 3 separate things, I guess. 2 teacher devices plus 1 display.
What if we were compromised on the size? What if we went with, and I don't know these answers, and you probably don't either, so I apologize. I don't want to like to shot in questions that aren't answered. But what if we were to compromise and go, let's say, 30, 65-inch TV monitors, and then come up with another size for the 9? That, I don't know what that would do with the cost, but would that be something the board would be interested in exploring?
I think sometimes, and this, they're not necessarily getting on the dance floor, but I think that they came with a recommendation that was the best recommendation that they could come to us with. I don't think that Alicia didn't take the time to do the research after the 5-page memo. And I get you, yes, like, I just think that that's feedback at the end. I also wanna say, like, this is an investment, this isn't something that we're looking at and then redoing again in another year. I think the hard part is that we keep trying to compare this, like, to corporate America, or we keep trying to compare this to, like, working with our employees. Like, these kids, they're gonna be exposed to technology and to jobs that we don't even know about yet. And I think sometimes when we look at this, it's not that we're short-sighted or anything like that, because this is a lot of money. like a lot of money. But I think taking into consideration that these tools, like these are the tools that they're gonna use. Like these are the things that they are gonna continue to work with because this is what their generation has. And I think that that's a really hard line to walk because we wanna be fiscally responsible, which I think we are, and at the same time, like I wanna give the teachers the ability to teach our kids in a flexible, adaptable way. And I want the kids to be able to have access to the items that they need in order to keep up with this advancing technology that we keep talking about. So, whereas it's a very fine line, I don't, like, this is not a corporation. We're not churning out products. And I know we have a limited budget, unlike corporations a lot of times, but like, these are the kids that are going to be learning on these tools and then advancing them and then going to continue to use them. So, this is an investment, not something that we're gonna use this year and then chuck to the curb.
Did Matt say the same thing 3 years ago?
No, I don't think he did. I think he said this is really cool technology, and I appreciated Matt's view. Like, I've never heard of those short throw projectors. I didn't know about them, but the way that you sold them was amazing.
I mean, my
I also-
frustration is, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I also think like being in a classroom is just very different. Like, I've had to work with overhead projectors. I mean, like, the short throws are awful. I know now, but it is really hard to interact and engage with students in a productive way. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the kids can actually connect wirelessly as well, so will they be able to share their work?
They can, I think once we kind of work up to that point.
Right, I'm not saying today, but I mean,
Yeah,
like that's a
part of that.
yeah, like that's a really neat thing to be able to share that way. And if we were gonna move all over to Apple products and then go into Apple, like Apple AirPlay, like that would be great, because that's what we do at the high school. We'll budget for buying iPads for every single kid and Apple MacBooks, and then switching over to everything else. I mean, that is way more than $163,000. So that is my personal opinion.
Go ahead.
We as board members get this packet ahead of time and we read it. And we're supposed to submit our questions that are deeper dives than what's on the page here. If we're interested in something different. So to ask the administration or the board if they wanna go back and look at, well, do you wanna look at short throw comparisons? That should have been brought up on Friday when we got the packet, or over the weekend. What you have in front of you now is what the administration put together based on the conversation we had at the last meeting this was all brought up. It's not fair to the administration, and quite frankly, you're beating a dead horse to death here. You got the proposal. If you don't like it, you can vote no. And you shouldn't make the administration now go back and do whatever it is you're thinking of right now. You should have gone through the packet, had your questions, asked the administration those questions then.
I appreciate your comments, Donna, but I do think that at the last meeting that we asked for a lesser expensive option, and what we got was a reinforcement that this is what they want. I had no problems with the technology, it was always the cost. Always the cost. And all that's come back is the same cost.
But maybe they
So
could.
let's vote, because if there's not anything else there, because and I had no questions about the technology of the presentation, it all was about the cost, and it always was, and that's not been addressed since our last meeting.
I think our suggestion was if there is something better, please bring it back that is a lower cost. It wasn't find something that is a lower cost and then bring it back to us, or at least that wasn't my understanding. Because that's not what I thought was suggested. It was, if there is a lower cost item and a lower total cost that gives us the same functionality and brings a lot of the key components that we're really interested in, then please bring that back to us.
What
ahead.
I think we're heading down the path of doing is when we're starting to see recommendations for things, I can see us saying, okay, so we don't want $163,000. Bring us back something that's in the 150 range or the 100 range. That's not, that, I don't see that, if it's not going to do the job, if it's not going to be what we need for curriculum, for student achievement, we can't be constantly putting those type of dollar values out there. I mean, that's where I see this going. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I always was of the impression, bring us your best and within budget. And that's what you've done.
Last call, yeah.
I didn't ask to go back and do anything, just made my piece, so that's how I felt. I think going forward then, not for this example or any others, I'd like to be, if for example, I don't think it will happen, 4 out of 7 people voted no, then what would you do? So then going forward, what is option A and option B? Because what I just heard in the feedback was, well, it's either this or no. Unless I misunderstood you, it's either this or the short terms. And if that was the case for this example, we don't have to go back and rehash, but for the future, then the side-by-side comparison should be those two, and not compared to something that you absolutely, as an admin, wouldn't support or recommend. And then I would be like, okay, I know these are the options. If this one fails, then that's the bad one. Because right now, I'm thinking, if this were to not pass, I think it would, then what would you do? So
if that happened, we would regroup and then figure out what direction that we would want to go in. Last month, we brought 4 options, 3 options with prices, 3 different options to the board. So this is still our recommendation, but if that happened, we would regroup and determine and then figure out which way to go. And we would likely be seeing another quote for another cost to furnish the elementary school technology.
No, I remember you doing for the resident.
And Don, I agree with your comment. I don't want to be on the dance floor nitpicking laptops and monitors. I do think as a board though, what we need to have is a larger conversation about our budget. I think that's where this really needs to go.
Next budget presentation, or where?
Mr. President, where would that fit into how we move forward to,
Well,
as a board?
That's when the budget is presented. When Wendell does her budget presentation.
When would you like to talk about, I mean, how do we go about this? Do we go through the budget with a fine tooth comb and do the math and make, and I don't know. I just want, I'm trying to facilitate having a conversation about.
Well, but each
making sure
department
we
is
don't.
given, each department is given their budget, and then they obviously spend it accordingly to make sure that they stay within those guidelines. Those are the guidelines that we give them. Which is what, if it's covered under the budget, then she's meeting the guidelines we already gave. Okay, can you call roll, please?
Okay. Grimby?
Yes.
I vote yes. Fisterer?
Yes.
Bianchini?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
No.
Camardo?
No.
And Friedland?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next up is field trip request.
You didn't think you were staying until you
I did not. It's been a day. That's okay. I have a happy face in the front. Oh, do I have to touch it? Okay. Hi, I'm Jess Zaida. I'm from Euclid. This is Christine Chung. She's my partner. We brought Ozobots to Euclid, and we are here on behalf of Chung, Fries, and Zaida to request permission from you guys to submit an application for Students for Innovation Advocacy Day. This event is on May 9th in Springfield, Illinois, and we have previously taken it with kiddos too. This event is to inform legislators and key stakeholders of innovative learning that is going on in our classrooms and with all the technology that we bring to them, the critical thinking and problem solving that our students are doing through the OZABots that we're using to help increase the funding for that as well. And our application is to present OZABots. Last year we went and we were one of the youngest kiddos there. So it was really exciting because the kids got to teach like high schoolers and middle schoolers all about coding, and I never thought, and I know Christine never thought she'd be coding, because, I mean, it's intimidating when you hear that word. But we use OZABots and coding within our classrooms and clubs, and we've been working hard since we wrote a proposal and it got approved for a first grade class set. So all the kiddos and even one of the parents reached out to Ms. Daly and said that it was an amazing experience and they would love to have another opportunity for their students to do something like this, because it really empowers students to share their learning and let them be the teachers. So that's something that's really exciting. So if our application is accepted, we would like to bring 4 students and 4 adults, like their parents or guardians, and then 3 staff members, Mrs. Chung, Ms. Zaida, and Mrs. Reese, to Springfield on Wednesday, May 9th, 2024, to present at the Students for Innovation Advocacy Day. This full-day trip would extend outside of regular school hours and last from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We would request the bus for transportation. It's a long day, but the kids are great, and they have like their comfort people with them, so it actually works out very nice.
We entertain a motion and a second to authorize.
I have a question.
We'll
How
do
many
questions after we get a motion.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I got excited.
Let me entertain a motion and a second to authorize the submission of the Students for Innovation application, which includes the cost of the trip not to exceed $1,400 if selected to participate. Moved by Griffey,
Second.
second by Friedland. Any questions?
How many kiddos were last year?
4, so we had 4, we only had OZABots in first grade last year, so we took 4 first graders, but this year, Ms. Dinah moved up to second grade, so we would take 2 first graders and 2 second graders.
Awesome, okay, cool, thanks.
Any other questions?
Are they different second graders than the ones that went as first?
That's what we were talking about today. We were at Idea Fun and we were kind of hashing out that we want to give other students an opportunity.
Put,
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yep, hold on.
This was awesome last year that you guys did this. Great job on finding it, because I think you found it on your own, right?
We did, we were invited when we went, I attended IdeaCon last year, and then they were inviting teachers to submit
Yes.
applications.
I'm glad to keep it going. That was awesome. The presentation afterwards was,
And then when we
Great
went, they said,
experience.
we hope you come back next year, so here we are, asked for position.
good addition.
Anybody else? Call roll, please.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Grimpy,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
I vote yes, Ronstadt,
Yes.
and Friedland.
Yes.
Motion carries. Have a
Thank
good
you.
trip.
Yes. Yeah, we can see pictures.
Business Services, the NIIPC agreement. Linda, you have the floor.
Kelly Diaz, our food service director, is here in audience 2, and in just a minute, we will have a few pictures of some of the wonderful things that she has been doing in our kitchen with scratch cooking and some of the local foods that we get from this purchasing cooperative that we're going to talk about the agreement this evening. So those will kind of so Northern Illinois Independent Purchasing Cooperative, we are a member and they help us with bidding and procurement for all of our food and supplies for food service, which means it's already done for Kelly and you don't have to have an extra person doing that. They have been organized by the Oak Park River Forest High School Board and run by their board. The person that actually does it is retiring, so they want to change the governing structure and have their own governing board. So that's what this agreement is about. Helping costs us $600 a year. It's the same one we've been in for a long time. So change there. So you will see this in the consent agenda to approve this new agreement. Any questions about what you're seeing up there? We got a great tilt skillet, but now she's making homemade chili and all kinds of things out of. There's some of the menus with food from scratch and different ethnic groups too. So there's fun things happening. Come over at lunchtime and try it out.
Any questions?
I have one. In the agreement, under the financial management, so it would be bullet 11.6. Okay, you said they're changing it for the governing body, so I'm guessing that the financial stuff hasn't changed, 11.6. It says that the board of directors will provide the districts an annual audit.
Yeah,
So
it will be
have we
done
got-
by the governing body.
Excuse me?
It'll be done by the governing
It
body.
will be, but
Yes.
so far we
So-
haven't gotten anything. It's never been something we've gotten in the past.
Kelly, did you get an audit from?
They audit their bids annually, yes.
Yeah, they would have a certified audit for you.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, but this is not something that's being done now.
yes, it is being done.
Okay, so do we get a copy of the financial audit? It
I
says
think we
that
can-
will provide to the member districts, and we're a member, an annual audit of the financial affairs, blah, 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 blah. This report shall be delivered to each member district, so could you please make sure we get it?
Yeah, we will make sure we do it.
And if possible, get last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Once it would be ready, we'll do it.
Okay. That's it.
Anybody else? Yes.
I just wanted to, a general comment about the food program, and Stephanie put together a great Valentine's Day video about what kids love in our district. I just wanna highlight that probably 15 or 20 of the kids, along with their friends and teachers in school, they love the food, which I think is, it's a hard thing to get all kids to love the school food, but it's a great job.
So this will be, in the consent agenda in March?
Yes.
Great, thank you. A resolution providing for the issue and sale of general obligation school bonds.
Have, Kyle Harding from Chapman and Cutler is here.
Opportunity to meet with you again. Again, Kyle Harding with Chapman and Cutler. I'm serving as bond counsel to the district on this proposed bond issue. And in that capacity, I prepared the resolution that's before you this evening. The resolution authorizes the issuance of not to exceed $10 million of alternate bonds for capital improvements. This is the third and final required board action in order to issue the bonds. You will remember that in December, you adopted a resolution of intent, and last month you held a public hearing. The resolution also authorizes the sale of the bonds to Raymond James, who's a member of it. Elizabeth Hennessy has been in front of this board and has talked to you about this proposed plan of finance. Unfortunately, she had a conflict and wasn't able to make it tonight. The resolution has been prepared in parameters format, which means we don't have final pricing in front of you this evening. Instead, by approving the resolution, the board is authorizing the subsequent sale of the bonds, but the bond sale needs to fall within those approved parameters, including, again, a max par amount of $10 million. You'll remember that when you went through the, when you adopted the resolution of intent and held public hearings for $20 million, bonds expected to be issued this year and next year. Another parameter is a not to exceed coupon of 5% for the interest rate. And then there's also a backup tax levy of $800,000. These are alternate bonds, so there is a backup tax levy, but the board is promising every single year that you will use other lawfully available funds and will abate that property tax. So unlike your other bonds, which are payable from a tax levy, these bonds are payable from your existing revenue stream right now. The existence of the backup tax levy provides additional comfort and support to investors, which brings down the overall cost, interest rate that they will demand from you. So if assuming the board approves the bond resolution this evening, the plan is to have the actual sale next week or the first week of March. So that'll be the time that the actual interest rate is locked in, and then the closing would occur, it's expected to occur on March 20th. So that would be the day that you would get the money in the bank. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, a motion and a second first to adopt the resolution providing for the issue and sale of general obligation school bonds, alternate revenue source of the district in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $10 million for the purpose of improving the sites of and altering, repairing, and equipping school buildings and facilities. Moved by Friedland,
Second?
second by Bianchini. Any questions?
So from past experience, you wait till there's a favorable interest rate before you sell the bonds, right? Or are you just automatically going to go out there next week and do it?
So that's I can answer that question, but again, I'm your bond counsel. Obviously, the financial questions would be more appropriate for Liz, but obviously she's not here tonight. I can tell you that's the purpose behind the parameters resolution.
Okay.
Because if we had gone with actual sale information, then whatever the market would have dictated today would be the pricing that we would put in front of you. And so, yeah, absolutely, the purpose of coming to you with parameters resolution is to give you some flexibility to make sure that we're in the market on a good day.
In the past, they have usually waited till there's a, like instead of doing it on Monday, oh, well, the forecast is for Wednesday to be 1 point lower, so.
There was a significant rally in the municipal bond market in November and December, but it has been a much higher interest rate environment for municipal debt than the last time we did a transaction together a couple of years ago. So overall rates are up, but it has been very volatile, so having some flexibility is a good thing.
Appropriate, or can I ask if there's a verbal yea or nay on behalf of the teachers union in their support? That's
Correct, that's right there. Any other questions? Mrs. Johnson, please call roll.
Sure. Ian Keeney.
Yes.
I vote yes. Freeland.
Yes.
Marno.
No.
Constant.
Yes.
Fisterer.
Yes.
And Green.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Construction update, Linda, you have the floor.
This is just a quick update on where we are in terms of Euclid and Euclid Indian Grove construction, what we're doing at the middle schools, a little bit about what you just heard on the financial updates, and where we're going from here. We did, over the winter break, we had a number of the winning bidders come into Euclid to take a look at the infrastructure, look up and see what all is going on. We are, over spring break, they will start work on the sprinklers in the gym. We're trying to get that work all done so that we can use the gym as storage. As part of our storage, we will still have to have a moving company come in also. There will be a parent information meeting on February the 29th in the evening, if anybody's interested. So parents can learn what all is going on there, and we can answer all their questions too.
Comment?
6:30.
6:30?
6:30, yes.
In person and online and recorded and posted.
We've also been working about the overall color scheme in Euclid and on the furniture proposal. You will see the furniture proposal at the operations committee on March 12th. They're working on negotiating the price down to where we want it right now, and then there will be picking colors and things like that. We would like to get it approved at the March 19th board meeting so that we can order the furniture and have it there for the first day of school. Also at that operations committee, you will hear a little bit more about our microgrid grant, because we will be, according to our engineers and architects, the best place to put the battery and the microcontroller is actually at Euclid. And then there will be some extra money in the fund for solar panels there too. So we will be giving you a more detailed overview of what's going on there. To right now. Unless they need to be cut down anyway. Not for certain. And then there will be approval of the remaining architect fees for Euclid at the March 19th meeting. And Euclid is getting ready to pack everything up and move out, so construction can start the day after school. Okay, Indian Grove, we did get the bids on the 15th. They were reasonable. Nicholas is looking at them and trying to figure out, make sure everything's included, and make a recommendation to us. We'll hear about that at the March 12th Operations Committee meeting. We've been having meetings with the architects, engineers, construction company, principals, teachers, trying to do the overall design for Indian Grove. So the tour today. They did get, the architects did get Nicholas the 50% complete drawings so that Nicholas can do the first estimate for us. And remember, the drawings are 50% complete. There will be a design contingency. They may change, there may be some additional alternates or something that can come up in between and now, and the next time you see it. Mid-April will be the complete drawings, so that hopefully in May we have a 95% complete drawings and cost estimate based on that. We're anticipating ordering some of the long lead time mechanicals and electrical equipment in June and being out to bid in September. Middle school, we purchased the library furniture this fall. We did a pilot with a couple different classrooms, and different teachers got to try it out. And the teachers and a lot of students commented on the furniture. The furniture company is kind of analyzing all of that right now and coming back with a proposal. We're looking at purchasing the furniture for middle school over the course of 3 years. We also do the security cameras this last year. And then maintenance, we're really keeping an eye on that school. We'll be saving parts so we can, from the elementary schools to use at the middle school. Dan is keeping a good eye on all of the equipment there and making any temporary upgrades that we need to get through the next 10 to 15 years.
Can you remind me, do we do 2 or 3 different?
We did 2 different classrooms.
Okay, which one would be
a variety of furniture in it?
Okay, so are we gonna, for the furniture purchase, are we gonna do a blend?
Yes,
of those?
they're looking at all of the comments and coming back with a recommendation based on what they learned from the pilot.
Okay.
That would be a standard class, I mean, we're planning on doing a standard classroom, at least for grade level. We're doing that over at the elementary schools, will be standard classrooms.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Financial update, we had the Moody's rating call. They affirmed our AA2 rating, which was good. We approved the bond parameters tonight. We will be selling the bonds hopefully on the 28th, depending again on the market. The interest rate as of today was 3.93%. Planning on closing the bonds by March 20th. This is a more detailed timeline, but I think I've covered everything pretty much that's on here, so if you have any questions.
The furniture for the middle school, so 5 years from now, when we get over there to do renovations and everything, we're not gonna be buying them all the furniture like we're doing.
No, that's, the plan is to buy their furniture ahead of time because they're not getting all the fancy renovation.
Got it,
Thank you. Next up, E-rate equipment. Alicia, you have the floor again.
This is the annual E-rate presentation. And in my introductory paragraph in the memo, it just discusses how this is a continuation from the work that had started last year. Last year, I think most or if not all of the E-rate components that were purchased during this last year's cycle went for our TMS, for trails, and so now it's Euclid's turn, and that's kind of in advance of the construction. And so we worked on this proposal with our managed services provider, E2 Services, and so in conjunction with my team, we came up with these items for purchase, which are switches, cables, and access points. The recommendation is to accept this proposal, which will be reimbursed approximately 50% the cost of the equipment, and the total cost is $58,800.72 in FY '25. That was approximately $6,000 less than was originally quoted. The one thing I did want to point out, which might be slightly confusing, is in the letter that was attached, that's on the back of that memo that I wrote, it talks about how there were proposals for 2 configurations that were in the RFP. One configuration possibility was a multi-mode fiber or MMF. The second possibility was a single-mode fiber connection. And so in the paperwork that was also included, there were quotes or RFPs for both. We weren't sure yet at the time that the RFP was put out which one we were going to go with. And so that's why we have both on here. But after discussing with our managed services provider and the team, we decided that we would go with the MMF for this time, and ultimately, probably in the next long time from now, we might look at the single mode fiber. But so that's what we went with, and so the only thing that you really would look at is under cost the multi-mode connection. So that just in case there was any confusion about that, that's what that was. Does anybody have any questions?
We get a motion and a second to purchase the network switches and additional components from E2 Services in the amount not to exceed $58,800.72 in fiscal year 2025. Moved by Pfister,
Second.
second by Bianchini. Any questions? Okay, Mrs. Johnson, call the roll.
Friedland,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
vote yes. Wimpy,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
and Tomorrow.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next up, review staffing plan for the 24-25 school year. Linda, you are up.
So this is the first draft of our staffing plan, and it's basically based on enrollment, projected enrollment for next year. We have not reviewed it in any detail with the principals yet, so it does not include any requests that they might have. The district staff has reviewed the plan, and we are recommending 3 programmatic changes. Based on our current enrollment of the multilingual learners, we don't believe that we need the multilingual teacher that we added this year. We don't need that next year, but we will continue to watch that enrollment and make sure we're meeting our needs. But we would like to add a Spanish teacher over at the middle school and speech language pathologist that will serve a variety of schools. So the Spanish world language teacher would be, so that we can add 6th grade Spanish. Our current, way we have it now, so it's only 7th and 8th grade, our students, a lot of our students don't feel comfortable taking Spanish to the high school. And most of the other districts are offering Spanish in 6th grade. So we would like to recommend doing that. Then the speech language pathologist is to support our additional self-contained classrooms. We added a second classroom over at Euclid for grades 3 through 5. We added one at Prairie Trails, kindergartners, and we're looking at possibly having something in with the middle school next year. With all of those needs, we need an additional speech language teacher. Also, that person will take over the assistive technology devices that we're currently getting some support from the NSSEO. So we'll save about $15,000 for that. So that's pretty much it.
Was there, oh, one second.
Go ahead. This is an action item.
It's not an actual good news, it's just info.
Did NSSEO, did they stop providing the assistive tech? Actually, no, it's not a question for you, never mind. This would be like probably a question to go to NSSEO, like why would they stop that facilitation?
Because
If
the
they're
classes,
dispersed.
yeah, because the classes are here.
Well, I
So they
mean, we
will-
have the option of using them, but,
There's like
if
there's so
we're,
many
if we're
numbers.
purchasing a .3 from NSSEO at a particular price, it is sometimes more cost effective for us to, instead of hire a .6,
Oh, I'm-
or say speech path, we can take that on ourselves.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to imply that. I meant if they're already researching all the assistive tech, like, do we use them almost like a consultant, or do we just, now the speech path is gonna be in communication with them to figure out the best tools? Because I know that the speech path can do a lot of these things,
Yeah.
but like NSSEO is, I don't know, I
So-
feel like they just really are, they got their hands in that bucket, so it's much
Yeah.
easier to take.
An assistive tech coordinator is typically a speech pathologist,
yeah.
so this, we will take that on ourselves.
Okay.
Instead of, like, outsourcing it.
Okay, and this is in addition to. Do we have, I'm so sorry, I feel absolutely ridiculous asking this, do we have a full-time speech path right now?
We have, yeah.
I thought that, but I thought when, what should we call it?
4, 5.
Yeah. Full-time, all full-time.
Yeah, speech.
Holy bananas, I thought that we shared.
Speech language in the younger grades has.
Right, falling off the,
exploded.
yeah, that part I know, and with our self-contained classes, like, I know we need additional support for all of those kiddos.
So we also service at St. Emily's, so we're required to provide service to St. Emily's, and also service ECDEC and, pre-K, early intervention. So, in addition to just our district kids, those are some of the other pieces that the speech pathologists take on.
I think I'm moving it on right now. I think I'm thinking of the school psychologist, because we have one at each school, and then do we have a shared? Do we have another one that was moving back and forth between Prairie Trails
We have a
and?
.6 at the middle school.
Okay.
At
That
one
was
time
moving back
was
and forth.
shared between.
I'm really sorry, in my head, that is what I was just thinking, and I was like, oh my God. Okay, sorry. I apologize, everyone.
Just to refresh my memory, how is the language program at the middle school, how does it work? Do you still teach French? Do you give the sixth graders French and?
We are teaching, we're currently teaching French and Spanish, but we're recommending going to Spanish.
Strictly Spanish, so we're dropping French.
Correct.
So Spanish would be starting in sixth grade, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Would that still be an elective, or would all children be pushed to?
It would be an elective. Is it okay if I speak to
Yes,
this?
go ahead.
It would be an elective, it would remain an elective. We don't wanna force second language on students if they're not ready to take it at that time. So we're recommending keeping it as an elective. In our survey, we had roughly 90 parents, on the initial survey respond that they would want their students to be participating in a foreign language at sixth grade out of the approximately 160 students. So we thought that was a pretty comparable return rate to what we see in seventh and eighth grade. We had discontinued French this year for seventh grade due to low interest. We had maintained it for eighth grade this year because the students had started in seventh. We are seeing a decline in the number of students requesting French. And with the size of our district, it's very hard for us to shoulder a full-time French program. I know this is something that we dialogued on several years ago as a board. We chose to continue to try to push forward with our French program. Unfortunately, we're just not seeing the number of students interested in taking French. The reason we're proposing the beginning at sixth grade is to give our students that opportunity going into high school to be able to be successful in Spanish 2 as freshmen, so that they can proceed into Spanish 4 or honor Spanish to receive Spanish 3 and Spanish 4 or honor Spanish, meaning they can earn a higher grade point average in those classes, and then proceed into the AP program if they should so choose. So many of our students are already multilingual students. We really want to make sure to give them this opportunity if at all possible.
And, what becomes of the French teacher now?
Right now, we're currently working with a long-term sub to fill our French program because we were unable to fill that position this year. So that position would just not be continued moving into next year. We do not have a permanent French teacher right now.
So there's a long-term sub, I forgot how this works, they're just subs?
This is just
So
a
they're not
long-term sub.
guaranteed
This is
anything.
not a district position, yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But she speaks French and Spanish.
She is teaching both right now, which is also exceedingly difficult to find.
Right.
We
We have been very fortunate over the course of the last couple of years to be able to find someone who's trilingual, but that is the reason we were in the position we were in this year, is because it was very, very difficult to find someone who could cover a point for French children. Because we don't have a full-time position for a French teacher.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Maybe for a future topic or when this comes back, but with the addition of a Spanish teacher, is there any opportunity to bring more language to like fifth graders or fourth graders, like we do with like orchestra or as a club at any grove or any that has a Spanish club?
Yeah, I think it would be dependent on the number of sections that we serve and what flexibility existed in that person's schedule. They could also be someone to also offer another encore class in world cultures, things like that at the middle school. This would be reducing the number of study halls for sixth graders. We are noticing in a block schedule, a 75-minute study hall is a very long block for a study hall. So students who would be participating in the foreign language would most likely not have a study hall blocked into their schedule.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Mrs. Seifert. Thank you, Dr. Schuster. Next up is the President's Report, upcoming events. Euclid School, we've got the parent construction presentation, as we just discussed, on February 29th at 6:30. That there's an in-person or Zoom option as well. On the same night here at Indian Grove is Literacy Night from 6 to 7. Prairie Trail School is kindergarten registration on February 27th from 4 to 8 p.m. RTMS has Pack the Place on February 23rd at 6 o'clock. Chorus, Bucket Band, and Steel Band concert on February 28th at 7. Fuel Up Day, March 7th, 8:30 a.m. So that's an all-day event. Fine Arts Production, March 20th at 7 p.m. Board dates, we have the North Cook Dinner on February 28th that Donna, myself, and Jody are attending. There's an Operations Committee meeting on March 12th at 6 p.m. at Prairie Trails. And we have our regular board meeting on March 19th at RTMS at 7 p.m. Also, district news, we've got NSSCO has their bingo night on March 13th at the Arlington Ale House from 7 to 9. We have canceled the brewing with the board on March 13th. We have parent-teacher conferences March 21st in the PM and then March 22nd during the day. And we have spring break from March 25th through March 29th. And that concludes the President's Report. Superintendent's Report is up next. Dr. Megley, you have the floor.
Well, I was going to see if everybody was okay with canceling the brewing with the board, but it sounds like it's
It's already on
canceled.
here.
So, indeed, I'm excited that NSSEO bingo night is the same time as the brewing at the board, even though I don't think I've won a bingo game yet to date, but it is a good time. So, if you haven't been, you should come out. Also, we have the 5 Essentials survey going on right now, and we'll continue to communicate that, but Euclid, I literally did the math. Euclid needs 4 more families to hit the 20%, and Indian Grove is about like 15 more families. So we're getting there with the parents. Actually, those numbers I feel like are looking pretty nice. The survey is open until the 29th, so we still have some time there. And then all of the questions and any of the questions that you guys post tonight at the committee of the whole meeting regarding construction, I'll work on answering those and get those in a Friday update. Obviously, I know I'm a processor, so if you think of other questions between now and whenever, 2 a.m. about the facilities here, please feel free to send them along. And that's it. That's all I got. Short.
All right, we had, do I have any committee updates? Okay. We have one FOIA request, thank you, Patty. Does anybody have any future topics that they'd like to discuss? All right, hearing none, we'll move to closed session. Can I entertain a motion a second to go into closed session for the purpose of personnel and litigation matters at 9:30 p.m.?
So moved.
Second. All right. Moved by Friedland, second by Camardo.
It was wrong.
It was Robert. Oh, I I saw the finger like this.
I was pointing.
Oh, sorry. Make it Ronstadt, yes.
Dean Keeney?
Yes.
I vote yes. Ruby?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
Yes.
Christopher?
Yes.
Freeland?
Yes.
And Pomano?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll go in at 9:36.